Welcome back here again, everyone. I recently got a chance to look at the new DC animated movie, Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons. Now, this movie serves as basically an origin story for John Kent, and also shows how he, embraces his superhero powers and becoming a superhero, and it also does that also for Damian Wayne Robin. Now, this is this is a this movie is also a direct contribution to the Super Sons series that they had, the comic book series they had a few years ago with Damian Wayne and John Kent, and for a brief moment in time they were poised to be the next big thing. I started reading that series a few years back, and when I started off reading it, I was hopeful, but I quickly saw what they were doing with John Kent, and that's why I got turned off from it. However, this movie does tend to ignite a little something and show the potential that series could have had it gone ahead. Okay, so let me get into it now. First off, let me just say that this movie is completely CGI. It's the first DC animated movie to be fully CGI. It does look somewhat the animation style with the CGI doesn't look very good at certain things. Superman and Batman kind of look clunky, the way that they're big and muscular, but they kind of look clunky a little bit, and certain other things look like that. It grows on you a little bit over time, but not enough for you to kind of forget about it. It doesn't mean that the CGI is bad. It just means that it doesn't look very fluid. Put it that way, it doesn't look very fluid. Now, as the movie starts off, we get a recap of how Kal-El left Krypton and came to Earth, and while the planet is being destroyed, apparently Starro is on Krypton in Jor-El's lab for some reason and hitches a ride on Kal-El's spaceship, but he gets knocked off before he comes to Earth. So we go through the process of showing a flashback of how Kal-El came to Earth, being raised by his parents. We get to find out that both of them died, which I find is really a heart-wrenching thing. I've always liked seeing I would like seeing Jonathan and Martha Kent getting to meet John. That was always a fun thing for me. But they went a different route with this movie. Then you get to see him becoming Superman, revealing his identity to Lois Lane, getting married, he having a team up with Batman, and then John being born. We get a little brief recap of that and we get back to it. Now, when you get to it now, John Kent in this iteration is your typical 11-year-old. He thinks that certain schoolwork is boring, he wants to do things fun, but he has to do some assignment and he doesn't think it's interesting and stuff. I must say, however, that the way Lois Lane is portrayed in this movie is done really well. She actually feels and acts like Lois Lane that you would actually want to have as Lois Lane, even though she's a mother and you think, well, that would slow her down a little bit. No, she's still Lois Lane, a little scatterbrained, but also really cool. The fact that they're living on the farm in Smallville is a little weird. I mean, I've always kind of thought that farm life was something that Clark left behind. Yes, he's still connected to it, and yes, he could still go back and do whatever he has to do there, but I always figured that, him and Lois and John living in Metropolis seemed the better way to go. That was just always my take on it. Now, as you know, Clark Kent is Superman, and he can't always be there for John because there are emergencies that happen and he can't show up. Lois understands because she knows, but they haven't told John yet. They're waiting until he gets a little older to tell him. Now, I could understand that. He not old enough to understand. He doesn't have any powers because apparently, Superman started lifting cars and things like 2 years old. John doesn't have that, so he's 11 years old. Nothing happened, so they didn't tell him yet. They're planning to, but they didn't tell him yet. I could understand that. Not like in Superman and Lois, where they waited until they were literal teenagers to tell them. That seemed that, I mean, like 16, 17. That seemed a little weird to me. But anyway, so when Clark doesn't show up to his baseball game for his birthday, he's upset. You understand me? He's upset. He's a typical kid. He's upset. He just wants his father there and whatnot. And then, he runs outside angry and upset, and his heat vision activates and he blows up something. And then Clark reveals who he is to him. And he is ecstatic. He can't believe his father is Superman. It is amazing. He's so happy that he's Superman, and he wants to, he wants to know what other superpowers he has. It's your typical behavior for any typical kid to find out that their father is the greatest hero in the world. Right? Typical behavior. Oh, before all of that, no, the watchtower was falling to Earth. Superman went and corrected its trajectory. Green Arrow was on there and everything was good. And then when he heard Green Arrow heard a noise on there, when he went and looked around, he get attacked by something. So we know it's Starro. The thing about this movie is that it is predictable at certain point, but not so predictable that you don't really, lose interest in it. So Superman and John go out flying because they need to do some checks on John to find out what is happening with him, with his new powers developing and stuff. And they're flying by this airplane, and this little girl looks outside and she's, mommy, Superman's flying outside there, and her boy's on his back, and the mother looks outside and nothing, and she just gives the child her phone and says, you know what, you can play with that. And it reminds me of this part from the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie where he saved the cat from the tree and gave it to the little girl, and she ran inside, mommy. The cat was up in the tree, and this man flew down and saved it. And the mother like, what have I told you about telling lies? That reminded me of that part, and I had to laugh. So they end up going to Gotham, but the fun part about it is they're flying overhead, and John is like, oh, what is that smell? Gotham City. I mean, you always know Gotham City was a cesspool, but oh my God, for he to smell it before he even see it, that was really bloody amusing. When they got to Gotham City now, Batman is there fighting off the Penguins, goons and stuff, and it looks really good. I must say, the action in this movie does look really good. Even though I've stated that the CGI is kind of clunky at times, most of the action scenes and things do look good. Sometimes it does look a little forced, and I'll get to that in a little bit, but it does look really good and fluid the way Batman is fighting off these goons. So, meet them up and they go back to the Batcave, and there he meets Damian. And Damian is your typical brat. Let's think about his typical brat. He calls John Farmboy, and then to test his powers, he pushes him off a ledge and he almost dies just to check it. And Batman is all, we shouldn't have done that thing. And then he throws a batarang at John's head, and about clearly no invulnerability. So he's difficult because remember, Damian was raised as an assassin, so he doesn't really do good with others. You get to find out now that he's trying to communicate. Damian is trying to meet up with the Titans to go out on patrol, and Wonder Girl tells him that they took a vote and they don't want him on the Teen Titans because he doesn't play well with others and he really only cares about himself. And he's generally upset by that. He wants to fit in, but he doesn't know how to do it. And that's kind of the dynamic of this movie. John needs to learn how to be a hero and how to influence people, and Damian needs to learn how to be a person a little more and be a kid. So it's a little confusing, but it does play well off of each other. And also Damian has a cow. So there's that. He has a cow. Anyway, Batman and Superman go to the Watchtower to check on what's going on there, and they end up getting attacked by Starro and get infected also. Damian is at the Batcave. Batman shows up and tries to infect him with Starro, one of the Starro, spores, I guess you could call it, because all of them look like little starfish things now. He fights him, but Batman overpowers him and throws him off a ledge to kill him, but he survives. And they decide that they're going to go after the others, and Damian gets to find out that all the other members of the Justice League and the Teen Titans have already been taken over, and only John is left. John is at school now. He got in trouble for fighting. While he's in the principal office talking, you literally see the Batjet land outside and Damian is in it. So he goes there and he tells him that aliens are taking over the earth, they're infecting people, and they need to get out of here. All of a sudden, Lois shows up, and Damian tells him that she's infected. He doesn't want to believe it. He tells him, okay, test it. When he asks her if he could get some ice cream and play some video games, she's like, yeah, sure. He's like, okay, yeah, she's infected. So she comes charging at them. They end up running out, jump onto the Batjet, and she jumps on there and is attacking them and stuff, and it's really funny. Damian wants him to kill her with the heat vision, but he don't want to do that, so he burns the Starro monster. She falls off into a lake. It turns out that heat damages the creature. So they go to the Fortress of Solitude where they meet Crypto, which chases them around because they don't know Crypto. They end up meeting Jor-El, who tells them what it is and whatnot. And so far the movie is going good. It's going interesting. You're getting, certain things are happening. Lois goes to the Daily Planet, and of course they had to do something to screw it up. They race change Jimmy. Jimmy Olsen, they race change him to be black because apparently it's never enough if they just have them be who they are. Apparently not learning anything from Supergirl, they decide to race change Jimmy again. Ugh. She decides to go to the president, who is Luthor, to get some help to announce to the world that the aliens are taking over the planet. So they end up at the so while Damian and John are at the Fortress of Solitude, they learn that there's basically a giant Starro that is the main body, and that is what they need to take out. So they stow away on Superman's rocket that he came to Earth with, go to the Watchtower to fight off Starro. Now this is where it gets some of the the clunkiness of it comes in, because when you see them fighting off like Wonder Girl and Kid Flash and thing, a bit of the movements and things do look clunky. You see it there, you see it looks kind of clunky and whatnot. So Lois goes there, convinces Lex Luthor, who's president, to make an announcement, and he announces to the world that they should all prepare to submit to Starro, because of course he's already infected. But she reveals that she knew he was infected the moment he took the moment he decided to even see her, and she burns his face, and then does a classic line where she reaches out to John and John, I know you can hear me. Heat damages them. You have to fight. Burn this mother. They cut you off, and that one line was like classic Lois Lane for me right there. Take no business, no nothing, just telling you as it is. I enjoyed that. So they're fighting off there, and then they end up having to fight Batman and Superman, and they're really getting their behinds whooped there because they know what the hell they're doing. They end up deciding to switch up partners, and you get to see that the cool dynamic of how this thing used to play off. Damian is a trained assassin. He knows how to move and how to fight and stuff, But John is just barely holding on because he only really has his heat vision, and he's barely learning how to use his super strength he now has and whatnot. They end up managing to overpower Batman and Superman. They end up going to confront Starro, who's a giant starfish at this point, but the heat vision and thing ain't really working on him because he's too big. So they put everybody into escape pods and send them back to Earth, and they decide they're going to crash the space station into the Earth's atmosphere to stop it. It's things like that that shows that these two are actual heroes. They're willing to make that sacrifice, and to really take a moment here to really give a jab to that god-awful Superman, Son of Kal-El nonsense comic book that it had. In this movie, John Kent has done more to be a hero than in that god of than the actual John Kent in that god awful comic has done in almost 2 years. That's to tell you the difference with it. So they look to crash the space station. Superman, when Starro starts to burn, it causes all the different spores that is sent out to detach from everybody who was infected with it. Superman ends up flying up, and this was the part that kind of at the ending started to get kind of lackluster because the watchtower breaks up, and the one section that they are on remains intact for Superman to come up and save them. Now, I think it would have been a little more sensible and make a little more actual thing for the story had it been that they had managed to escape from the space station before it, they had gotten into some kind of space pod or something like that and escaped, only to have Starro show up then and look to attack them, and then Superman had come, grabbed it up and threw it to the sun or something. They barely escaped. I would have given a little more credence to it, but they end up bringing them down to earth in the one section that remains. Everybody's okay, and then Starro comes out of the lake because you kind of saw that coming. Out of the lake, and still looking to attack Superman. Flies up there, grabs him, spins him around. John takes off a tree, throws it at him, and he hits a home run with it and sends the thing flying off into space. And you're like, come on, that was way too predictable. Way too predictable. Ends with John going to his baseball game again, and Damian and Bruce show up to enjoy it. And then at the end, the Super Sons are sitting on this water tower there talking, and Damian is that he hasn't given him his present yet. Oh yeah, what is that? He pushes him off and he falls there back, and Damian is still can't fly. That's how it is. I mean, the movie wasn't bad, honestly, because of what they were trying to do. I understand it, and again, as I say, seeing this version of the Super Sons was when I still had hope for them that they could have grown, because you look at this and you think to yourself, okay, they still could be anybody. That's the thing about it. One of the big difference, one of the problems it had with Super Sons, the comic, was that I knew that they were eventually looking to just age up John and swap him in as Superman. They had no intention of making him his own character. Damian Wayne was more complex, but in this movie, you still had hope that they could be anything. If you look in comparison, that let me say a series like, for instance, My Hero Academia, you have Deku. Deku will never be All Might. He may have the quirk and he may have ability, but he will be his own hero. He will take elements from All Might, but he will be his own hero. That's what it is. I was hoping they would have done with John Kent and blossom it like that, but they didn't. In this movie, though, you get more heroics out of them because it's really a coming of age heroic story for John Kent and Damian Wayne. Both of them are learning what it means to be a hero in different ways. And yes, it does kind of play off sort of the same way like how Batman and Superman met, but there is a difference to it that actually makes it interesting. Again, the CGI was not really the best choice, I think, with it. Again, as I say, it kind of grows on you after a little while of time, but it does look clunky at certain elements. Parts of the story are predictable and could have gone a different way, but didn't. It's a typical DC movie. Race changing Jimmy, that was crossing a line. That was really crossing a line. And you should stick to what you know. But there were good elements in this movie. Damian and John played well off of each other. Batman and Superman were okay. They stuck to their roles and they were there to do. I really did enjoy Lois Lane. She was actually like Lois Lane, the type of Lois Lane that you would expect. Overall, my final rating for this movie, I would give Batman and Superman Battle of the Super Sons 3.8 out of 5. I recommend watching this movie. I think it's really good. That's it for me. Let me know your thoughts on this in the comments. If you have a different opinion, I'd love to hear it. Like the video, be sure to hit that thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already, ring the notification bell, be notified every time I put out a new video. And I shall see you all next time. Take care.